Okay. Thank you. So our first speaker, first storyteller, the second part is Jody Whitlock.
So I could have sworn that the instructions for the short story tonight were to tell our friends something they wouldn't know about us and or something that was embarrassing. And mine is both. My short story is that my favorite all-time song ever is Celebration by Kool and the Gang. My story spans about 20 years, so I hope you're comfy. From the time until I was in third grade, I lived in a quintessential New England town in the state of Connecticut. My address was 49 West Street, my phone number was 426-0809. And it's kind of amazing that I remember that, considering that remembering my current address and phone number on Sundays is challenging. Not unlike many other New England towns, there were lots and lots of churches in the small town where I lived. And up the hill from our house was a main street and a town square that had a flagpole and benches and flowers, and it was a roundabout. So you drive up and you had to drive around it to go on any of the other streets. And on one side was a stone church, a very imposing, beautiful Lutheran church, which is where I went to nursery school. And across the way was a white clapboard Methodist church where our family attended. My dad sung in the choir, and my mom taught Sunday school. At the top of this Methodist church was a golden rooster weather vane, and as rumor had it, George Washington and his troops came through our little town and used that weather vane for target practice at one point. It's a little bit of trivia. So down the hill from the roundabout, about maybe a mile or so, was a small campus of pink brick buildings that housed the St. Rose of Lima Catholic Church and Parochial School. And I desperately wanted to go there. I mean, I was ready to wear the uniform and everything. My best friends, twins, Shannon and Stacy Cassidy, along with their parents and their siblings, attended Mass there faithfully every weekend. And I wanted to be Catholic. I loved the ritual of going into the Catholic Church and making the sign of the cross with the holy water when you entered, and reciting prayers together. Repeatedly standing and sitting and kneeling in unison, and communion. I loved communion. I mean, I never took it. I wasn't Catholic, but I loved it. And I mean, having a snack right in church helped with that. So, but really, I mean, I felt very. At 7 or 8 years old, I felt very peaceful, I felt very reassured, I felt like I could belong there when I would go. And my friends, their mom, sometimes would allow me to sleep over at their house on the weekend, and she would let us eat peanut butter and fluffernutter sandwiches on white bread in front of the television, which was awesome, and she would take me to church with their family sometimes, so that was really cool. Her name was Emily. John, the dad, was really tall and handsome and very kind and very welcoming. His claim to fame, according to his 4 kids, was that when he was in the Navy, he killed an octopus by biting it between the eyes. He also worked at Ethan Allen, which meant nothing to me until 20 years later when I was furnishing my first house. So John and Emily planned marriage encounter retreats. Do you remember marriage encounter?
Mm-hmm.
So the stickers that were on the backs of cars, they had the heart and the gold rings and the black cross. So they had one of these on the back of their brown paneled wooden station wagon. And when I would sleep over, sometimes we would get to take that to church, and I would get to sit in the third row, which at that time, if you recall, faced backwards. And so if you stopped at a stoplight or a stop sign and the window rolled down, all the exhaust came in. And you were praying to God that the people behind you were going to stop before they got to your car. So sometimes I would go to church with them. They planned these marriage encounter retreats, and they planned them in the dining room of their blue Cape Cod, which was a disaster. It was a complete disaster. The dining room was piled with binders and papers and marriage encounter stickers and pens, but it was really also very homey, and there was always room at the table to have a meal, to have a snack. If we wanted to play board games, it was no problem. They just cleared it off. I thought my parents needed to go to marriage encounter. I never said anything. It wasn't like, hey, Mom, Dad, I think you need to go to marriage encounter. I don't even know why, really. I just thought it would be a good idea if they went. And my dad was an airline pilot for Pan American, and he wore designer jeans. My mom had been a school teacher before she stayed home with my brother and me. She had really long brown hair that she dyed blonde and wore in like Marsha Brady ponytails. My parents, I was told, were a really good looking couple, like people would tell me that. They smoked a lot of cigarettes. They drank wine from exotic places that my dad flew. And for reasons that I still don't know, one weekend they went to marriage encounter. They went with the Cassidys to marriage encounter. And my brother and I stayed with some friends of ours, and when my parents came home from marriage encounter, they picked us up on Sunday night, and they took us into the living room where we were never allowed, and they announced they were getting a divorce. So, my dad moved with his mistress, who was a flight attendant, surprise, surprise, to New York City. And my mom, who understandably at this point was sort of confused and entered what I recall as sort of a spiritual limbo, moved us to Michigan, where she was from, and we were shopping, we were church shopping, basically. She took us to a bunch of different churches. Never the Catholic Church, sadly. And we never settled on one. Eventually our Sundays consisted of a trip to Kroger and brunch at the Holiday Inn. I found out very soon that my dad actually identified as an atheist, and his mistress was a devout Catholic. And he started attending Mass with her regularly. And I asked him why at one point on a weekend visit, and he said, the Catholic Church is great theater. And while I certainly did not have the word irony or ironic in my vocabulary at that age, I remember thinking, well, that's kind of odd. I mean, I like to go to the Catholic Church because it's so peaceful and I feel like I belong there, and he goes for the drama. So in middle school and in high school, I had a lot of Catholic friends, and I remember feeling kind of left out when my Catholic friends would talk about going to CCD on Wednesday. I definitely wanted to be a part of that. And then when we were driving, when we were old enough to drive, we would all meet on Saturday night, but my Catholic friends would go to Mass first, and then they would sneak out after communion, and I would hear them talking about this. And as the oldest child in my family and a rule follower, I thought, oh my gosh, that is scandalous. And then I went to college, and I took a comparative religion course. And essentially my takeaway from the comparative religion course was that all the major religions shared a basic theme, which was the golden rule. And I decided that for anybody who asked me, that my wise 21-year-old self now had a new religion called love. And I could find it in a coffee shop with a friend, or in the woods, and of course in the Catholic Church. But I didn't necessarily have to go to church to find my new religion. As a senior in college, when I was a senior, it was December, I got a phone call from a boy. And he was somebody who I knew. We knew each other because we had had mutual friends. And he asked me on a date. We went to a movie, and afterwards he came over to my house and we talked for hours and hours and hours. And about 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning, I walked into the door and he didn't kiss me. I kind of wanted him to kiss me. Okay, I really wanted him to kiss me. We decided that we were going to see each other again, and for 2 weeks over our holiday break, we saw each other every single day. And at the end of those 2 weeks, we decided we are going to give a long-distance relationship a try. So we went off to our respective colleges, and we saw each other almost every weekend. And eventually I met his parents, who were Catholic. His dad was a cop who entertained me with stories about the FBI Academy, high-speed chases, stakeouts, and even murder. His mom was a nurse, and she taught at a local community college, and she also worked on the pediatric floor of a hospital. And as I came to know their family, I found out that before his mom was a nurse, and before she got married, and before she had children at the age of 19, she entered the convent. And she stayed there for 14 years. Her parents became very ill, and so at the age of 33, she was granted permission by the Pope to leave the order. She married the cop, and within 14 months, they had 2 children. Her son was born with the weight of the world on his shoulders. His guiding lights were good old Catholic guilt, a great sense of humor, and the golden rule. Isn't it ironic that for 23 years I have been married to that son of a nun?
There's never a problem with people hearing me. Hi, can you hear me? Hi, I'm Corey Allison. I think that the short story, the sort of funny, embarrassing, weird thing about me is that, as you will learn in my other story, is that I'm a wedding planner and I can't dance to save my life. And I don't really understand why. I have some rhythm. I can carry a tune occasionally. I think it's probably because I'm clumsy, but it's also because I have spent so many years standing behind the DJ booth laughing at people. Paralyzed. And left my husband, who, when we had time to go out dancing, he would stand there, he's much taller than I do, stand there and hold my hand and just look and twerk. So that's me. So okay, I'm Corey Callison. I have been a wedding planner for 20 years, which is a long time in central Pennsylvania. There aren't very many of us. I will tell you that this has been a rough year. This has been one of the tougher ones. We live in a world right now where, excuse me, I'm really nervous because I have so much to tell you. But so we live in a world right now where young men and women are told that they must be coupled, they must be partnered, that the only way to be truly happy and complete is to have a partner. But it doesn't stop there. Not only must you be partnered, but you must also plan a big party to celebrate this blessed union. So often we have a rather young couple who neither of us has ever planned a birthday party. They now have planned the happiest day of their lives. And the pressure starts from the minute somebody puts a ring on somebody else's finger. They are told that they should follow tradition, that they should listen to their families, that they should take all the opinions of what Pinterest tells them. You all know what Pinterest is. They're supposed to take everyone's opinions. They also should make sure that they're unique. They should put their own unique imprint on their wedding. But it shouldn't be too unique because that could be weird. And off-putting to the people that love you. We certainly want our guests to be comfortable. They are told to not spend so much money as to be ostentatious. But they should also spend the right amount of money so that they aren't tacky. They have to be good hosts. So all of that is, you enter the wedding planner. We come in to really smooth those waters, to really help them through the process. Every couple of weeks, I would actually say it, sometimes during the year it's every week, I get an email from a young woman. The email often goes like this. Dear Ms. Callixon, I'm a junior majoring in, pick one, tourism, management, biochemistry. But my true passion lies with event planning. It has always been my dream to be a wedding planner. I've looked at your website. I love your work. I think what you do looks like an awful lot of fun. I would love to talk to you about possible career opportunities with your company. Thank you. This year in 2017, at the end of the wedding season, this is the letter that I would like to write to these Emmas, who, by the way, I love them. I love these young women. I love their passion. I love how excited they are and how ambitious they are that they are willing to write to someone that they've never met before and say, I can do what you do. I really do love them. So what I would like to say to these young women, dear Emma, thank you so much for your kind words about our company, and thank you for reaching out. We're very proud of what we do. We work very, very hard to get to this point, and it's so nice when people recognize what you've accomplished. We'd love to sit down with you and talk about your career path. We'd also like to help to paint a picture for you of what your life will look like. The wedding planner may be employed at any point during the planning process. You may get a call from a frantic mother of a bride, a frantic mother of a young woman who is in a serious relationship and she just knows that the ring is coming any minute and she wants to make sure that it will be perfect. Conversely, you may also get a call from a woman 5 weeks from her wedding date who finds that she has unsigned contracts from 3 different caterers, a $20,000 floral proposal, and is adrift on a sea of indecision. At the first meeting, she will instruct you to not tell the groom how much she's spending. You mentioned fun. And actually, a lot of it is a lot of fun. It can be very fun. The design process, while frustrating and confusing, is very fun. Again, Pinterest, blessing and a curse. A lot of times, with all of this information that brides and grooms have, they are not able to tell you what they want. They're only able to tell you what they hate. She would like to have greenery in her bouquet. She would like for it to be not too weedy, not too country, not too tropical, or not too Asian. They would like their wedding reception to be someplace that is not a barn, a ballroom, or outside. And I will tell you that in central Pennsylvania, we don't have anything else. So we walk them through, we take them through the process, we help them create the dream from scratch. We tell them what the dream is when they aren't really sure what they want. Other parts that are fun, I have to go back to the design for a moment because this is actually one of my favorite design stories. We had a young woman it was impossible to get anything out of her. She wouldn't tell us anything that she wanted. She said, I want it to be like it's in a castle. Okay, so that's just not a design concept. She said, I like the